I've been having a lot of fun trying to do different things. So a lot of times I don't necessarily have super control over where I go. So it's really interesting to me the places that I've ended up. The few times I have set an intention, like I want to go somewhere beautiful with a mountain and a waterfall or something like that, and then flying through space somewhere, and I always go out through like these wormholes. Kind of, it feels like I'm traveling through, and then you just like pivot through the side, and then I'm somewhere. And I went to this one place. It was absolutely beautiful. And then I realized there was dinosaurs. I got really see, I did get a little scared. There was these pterodactyls flying, and they did not like me there. They were like, "You're not supposed to be here." And then I started being chased by a pterodactyl as I was flying around. And then I just said to myself, I was like, "Go back to your body." And then it was just like, boom, I instantly woke up and was like, my spirit guide I have a spirit guide, I guess, that likes to fly me around places sometimes to show me stuff, which I think is interesting. And that's probably my favorite. I'm like, somebody carry me, please. I don't want to have to. Some of the best experiences I've had have been where somebody else was carrying me along. I've been, which is actually pretty crazy. There is some realm where there's kind of the way we depict angels, but they shapeshift kind of into, they can present as masculine or feminine, and they shapeshift back and forth and kind of morph their features around, but they have like your classic, like white feathery wings on their bodies. But I don't know if they're angels per se, like in the sense that we think of like heaven. I just don't know if it's just a different dimension, and this is just like what they look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've been to a place that, I don't know, it's just like they live up in the sky, and there's these like orangey cliffs, caves. It's like barren. There's no trees. It's just like all these like floating mountain cliff things.
Whoa.
And there's white feathered beings, and they don't, and that's their energy that I've picked up on, don't necessarily feel just like euphoric, like that one angel with the eyes that I encountered that was euphoric. That felt like heavenly or divine. These feathered beings, they don't necessarily feel like that. Some of them felt helpful, and some of them felt not so helpful. So that
Huh.
was really eye-opening to me, because when I first went there, I got excited and I'm like, oh, am I in heaven? Like there's these angels everywhere. And I was following, there was hundreds of them flying somewhere, like there was a meeting or something weird going on, and I kind of was following them. And I have one of them acted like they knew me, whereas others didn't. It was a very strange experience. Like I know when I first started projecting a couple years ago consistently, I would go just to this fourth dimension. And the interesting thing about that, when I was walking around this playground, there was a bunch of other astral projectors there, but it was almost like they were Sims characters. They were just kind of like glitching
Oh.
out. And I could see that their astral body, it was like, I think people astral project in their sleep and they don't know, they're not aware of it, they're not conscious. And they go to this plane that it's the fourth dimension, and they're just kind of hovering there. They're not really moving. It's like they projected there and they don't know it. And I made the mistake one time. I was there and I'm wide awake and I'm like, whoa, there were so many people everywhere that I walked up. I was being goblin a little bit. I walked up to people and I was like, hello. And I remember I tapped this guy, like I touched his energies. He looks like a little ghost body. And he like instantly became conscious and looked at me, and all of a sudden was going, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck. And then poof, he just vanished.
Oh.
So probably went back to his body.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit. I'm like waking people up on the astral
Yeah.
plane, like making conscious.
You-
So, and that was like 3 years ago. I went to this plane all the time, and I just kind of ran around like looking for anyone else who was conscious, and everyone was just not.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
woke a
amazing.
few people up. Yeah.
Yeah, you were a little goblin waking people up, pulling little pranks on people.
I was. And
And
then I started to feel bad. I was like, maybe I shouldn't do that.
well, that experience with the angels or whatever they were in the sky, that sounds amazing. And you followed them, and there were like rune caves or like sigil caves or something like that.
No, it was bigger. So I went through these weird gates, and it was like this huge, almost like arena type thing, but it was like with rocks. There wasn't much, I don't know. And that was weird. It felt like there was some type of meeting or congregation. And I stayed to kind of see what was going on. And it was actually pretty wild. I felt like there's something going on this dimension that's not good, because I watched, I mean, there was thousands of these angels everywhere, all gathered into this room. And I was just there like, what's going on? And
Could they
there
see you?
was this, um, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. You're saying there was this what?
Oh, in the middle, it was almost like there was a stage or something. And there was this female looking angelic being. And it was weird because this one, it had like crazy wings. They were like 100 feet feathery wings, and she had this hair that was just floating behind her, that like Rapunzel style, and just glowing. Her skin literally was translucent, glowing. And then there was this other angel though that had this like lance scepter thing, and straight up stabbed her straight in the middle. And I was like, holy shit. And then after that first stab, her wings shrunk from like 100 feet wide to like 50 feet. And then her glow shrunk a little bit. And then he stabbed her again. And then she looked more like the other angel beings that were around, just like your typical wing size, and then no glow. She wasn't glowing anymore. And then I was like, what is this, some type of demotion? I'm like, what is going on? And then they stabbed her again. And this was, she disappeared into black goo. And then the black goo went along the thing. And then they were like, there was like other angels waiting in line. And the next one came up, and this angel being that had the normal sized wings, no glow, just looked kind of humanish. They, tapped them with the lance thing, and then their wings grew even bigger, and then they were glowing. So it felt like some sort of like promotion, demotion type thing happening.
Yeah.
And then I ended up I wanted to see where that black goo was going.
Yeah.
So I kind of zoomed and like was following around that. And then it went back in this weird room, and there was what looked like a pregnant woman on a table, and the black goo went into the body, like it went into the baby or something. And then I was like, I got to get out of here.
Whoa, that's super interesting. A pregnant human woman or a
It
pregnant
looked it looked human. There was no wings. It was very strange.
huh. Maybe they were getting ready to hop into the third dimension or something like that, and they were leaving that dimension, hopping into the baby of that pregnant woman, or like,
Yeah.
or sacrificing
I
themselves
know.
for whatever
I
reason. I
had
don't know. It's so
so
weird.
many questions about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, are humans like angels wanting to experience pain or life, or like if they can't, I don't know. I
Yeah.
was like, because she was like this epic glowing thing. I was like, what, did she reach this level to where it's like now you get to like experience like humanity or
Yeah.
something? I don't
Whoa.
know. I
That's
thought about so many different things to interpret. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. That's intense. Could you telepathically communicate with any of the beings there or no?
There was one angel being that actually came up to me, that acted like they recognized me as, and that's where I thought it was one of my spirit guides from like 10 years ago that I hadn't even thought about. And they approached me, and I was just kind of like, I just recognized the energy. It wasn't even um, like somebody I've ever met, but it was like meeting an old friend. Like we hugged, and he was like, "Oh, wow, what are you doing here?" And I was like, I don't know. And that way we had just a short, brief conversation, and then they left, and that was kind of that.
You said so you do have a spirit guide then that you know? You know your spirit guide?
I know a couple right now. I've been, I guess, projecting with, it looks like a barn owl, just like an owl that will fly together. And he's saved me a couple times. I've projected out where I am going fast, and it's pulled me back, and I can telepathically talk to it, and it pulled me back into like my bedroom. And I remember being in my bedroom looking, and I was like, no, I want to go. And he told me, he was like, no, he was like, don't go out tonight. He was like, there's something going on in the astral plane. It was like, you need to stay at least in your neighborhood. He was like, do not go further than that. And I was like, and I just wanted to go. So I started flying, and he followed me like 3 times and like pulled me back. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'll stay here. And I don't
You're
know.
like fine. You're like fine, I'll listen to you.
I was like, okay, little owl guy.
Yeah. Little owl guy. What's his name? Does he have a
I
name? Have you
haven't
given him a
named him.
name?
No, I haven't actually. but I'll follow him around sometimes on the astral plane. And we just talk telepathically, but there's never, yeah, I never felt like a need to exchange names or do any of that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's so cool. So you have like a, wouldn't they call that those familiars? Don't,
Yeah, I
it
think it's
sounds
something
kind of
like
like a
that.
familiar or something like that.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
have an owl. That's so cool. So interesting. That makes you, because I always thought like it would be a human being type or humanoid type of a being that would be your guide, but it can be other
Yeah,
types.
I haven't, any of my guides that I have flown with haven't been human. Because I've also flown, I have a black dragon that I can fly around with, and he's pretty scary. Like the
Oh,
energy,
oh,
is
really?
very
Like
like
he's pretty,
every time I'm like, don't hurt me, kind of vibes. But
and he's like, "There's no way I'm gonna hurt you. I'm your guide. I'm gonna protect
yeah,
you."
yeah. It gets
But
really offended with me. It's just like, oh my gosh, like you're scared of me. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
is he like a giant dragon? Is he smaller or like
He's
how big
pretty
is?
big. Yeah. He's like black and kind of reddish and just
Oh,
very, it's
nice.
just, yeah,
Is
dragon energy is just
is he serpent
very,
like? Is he serpent
yeah,
like or is he
it is
like
kind of more
really long?
serpent-like. That's what I was gonna say. And if you've ever hung out with snakes, the energy is more that just, I don't know, hard to explain. Serpent-like
Majestic.
energy.
And then have you ridden on top of him? I guess you can fly, so there's no need to ride on top of him, right?
Yeah,
Or
no,
like
yeah.
right.
We normally just fly together. Yeah. I've traveled with this, it's like a black smoky figure
Oh,
sometimes, which almost I've tried to figure out what that is. I don't know if it's just like another, that does feel kind of human to me now I'm thinking about it. But it's just like very black smoky. Like I don't know if it's like another projector with just lower energy that it can't fully form.
oh,
So have you noticed that with projecting that I feel like certain other humans, like you can see like they either look like more ghost like or kind of translucent. Some are really clear, almost as human as we look now, versus kind of fragment morphing or smoky.
like you said, you kind of have a relationship with
It
that being a
felt
little bit.
familiar. Yeah, I feel like we're friends, whoever this. And that's what I'm wondering too.
Yeah.
Is it just, are there beings that are like that? And just some of them are, negative that people are scared of, but they're just another type of species. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
But there is this one shadowy, it looks scary, but the energy's not. The energy is friendly to me, anyways.
List
I've
kind of.
tried. My husband also has never been able to or tried, and I've been trying to pull him out of his body
Oh
so
yeah.
hard. So I'll like hover, like I'll try to be slow. Cause normally I like to zoom when I leave my body. So I've been trying to hover, stay in the bedroom. I'm like, okay, pull his spirit out, and I'm like above him, like just grabbing at him. One time after trying this for like 2 weeks, and I kept telling him, I was like, babe, I'm going to pull you out. Um, I pulled him out. I was so excited. But I just pulled him out and he was right there in the bedroom. But he was just like with those characters, like on the fourth dimension plane, just
Oh
standing there, like
yeah.
just not moving. I was
Yeah.
so sad. I was so proud of myself. I worked so hard to
Yeah.
pull him out. He's right there and he's just a non. I was like, no, I was like trying to ghost gobble him and it didn't work out. And I was like, okay, well, and then I just flew away. It took me a couple of weeks of trying. And that's another thing I've been trying to practice too in the astral world is picking stuff up. I've been trying to because normally I just feel like you're kind of like a little ghost spirit, like you can't really, you put your hands through walls almost, you can zoom through anything like matter, you can't hold things. So I've been practicing trying to pick up stuff, which takes a lot of energy. And I was able to pick something up recently and I was pretty proud of myself.
Wow.
Uh,
So, well, first, when you say pick up things, are you talking about picking up like a physical thing in the third dimension, like a pot or something, or like
yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
so not
So
something in the astral that's ghosty. You're talking about
right,
picking up
staying on
something
this.
physical.
So that's interesting. So sometimes you can astral project, but you're still obviously on this third dimensional plane. Like you're around, you can fly around. I spent a lot of time flying around my neighborhood. There's this beautiful tree nearby that I spend a lot of time by. So I'm on this dimension. So, but normally on this dimension, I feel more ghost-like, translucent, like you can't really interact with things. And I have been able to a couple times interact, which I want gives me questions about what are ghosts when people, oh, the ghost is turning on the sink or doing these things. What if that's just, some astral projector,
Oh yeah.
who's just trying to test their skills or whatever? Because I feel like I do, you know, and we
Yeah.
just interpret it that way or something.
Yeah.
Because I play the piano, and so I wanted to go to some fancy recording studio. I set the intention, and I was in somebody's recording studio, and there was just this beautiful like piano, and I was like, oh, I want to play it, and I was like geeking out. And I remember sitting there, and again, it's like little ghost hands. It was like, I was like not working, nothing's happening, and I'm like, I want to play it. And I with so much focus was like trying to push, and then I was able to actually hit a couple, and I was like trying to play like airplaying like a song, but it was like every couple notes I was actually able to like strike it and push it and
Well,
feel it. And then it was funny because someone came running in from the other room.
that
Yeah,
like,
this guy
you
comes
know,
running in the room looking around like, what the fuck? And then I was just like kind of zoomed into the ceiling a little bit. I was like, oh no, they couldn't see me or anything, but I was like realizing, because they were looking around like, and I was like, oh, was I a ghost playing the piano right now? And that was like,
yeah, you're
I was
like,
proud of myself in that moment, because it took so much. I was like, ah, and I played
yeah.
some keys.
Have you ever tried to search for answer? I bet you have tried to search for answers in the astral of just like the meaning and what's beyond and all
Yeah.
that.
The biggest thing, which I swear, like a mad scientist, I have these notes. Um, I was asking those kind of questions, and one of my spirit guides, I guess, I was like, can you explain to me what's going on? Take me. And I was flown to this place. It was like a space station type thing, but it was like very small and empty. And we went inside, and there was this blue humanoid person, I guess, like laying in this, what looked like a little hospital bed. It was like a blue guy laying there. And the next bed, there was this red guy laying there, and he was like on fire. And then there was like an empty bed. And somehow I felt like I was being shown like, I don't know, I feel like we're some type of experiment of mixing species or something. And I felt like, and I was watching, this was the blue guy and the red guy. And then once the blue guy, it was like the fire, like his skin turned red. It was like the mixing of those two energies of like blue and red, which now I've come to think, I'm like, okay, this must represent what we know as water and fire, like the elements coming together,
Oh yeah.
mixed with something that created what we are as humans, sort of. And then, of course, I was like, what's the third bed? It was empty.
Oh,
And then I was just zoomed out into um, just seeing like the human organs like blown up. And I'm like in space, and it was just flying me through the human body. And I still don't know. It didn't
huh,
answer my question. It just showed me
huh.
that. And then I was flying through the human body from the inside out. So funny too. 10 years ago, I feel like it was like my mission. One of my spirit guides was like, your mission on this life is you got to figure out, it's all about what's the difference, but meaning in between, what's the difference between light and dark? Like, what is in between the transition of light and dark? And apparently that's my life mission. One day I'm going to figure it out and write a book.
Oh
I've
wow.
been doing a lot of research and study on, of course, like science wise of that. I've had thousands of interpretations of what that means, breaking it down in different, all types of ways, metaphorical, physical.
Oh
But I
wow,
feel like
really?
it relates, yeah, but I feel like it
So
relates to what I was shown on that astral projection. But I haven't really pieced it together. One of my more recent uh, astral projection experiences that was new, was that I didn't know could be done, but I guess you can. I I don't know. I wasn't saying like I became math. No. So I astral projected and I was in this museum and I was looking at, there was this whale statue. It was huge and it was like, it looks like it was made of silver and it had these spirals and it had these like number sequence. It was like zero something, just went all the way up with these weird numbers. And then I was looking on the inside and it had these math problems in there. And I was staring at it, thinking this is so cool. Tried to pick it up, I couldn't move it. So then I just set the intention. I was like, I want to be what this math problem is. Like, what is this trying to show me? So I just was kind of like, okay, I want to experience this math problem. And then I felt myself just being like kind of slowly sucked in. And then I didn't exist anymore in the way that you would. And I was just this pattern. I just feel myself just moving, like it was like up and then like down fast and then like around and then like up and then down and then around. And then it kind of did this weird move and it just went over and over. It was just this pattern. I just became this pattern and I didn't have sight like I normally do. I didn't have the normal senses like I do. And the crazy part was that I felt like a sensation of just bliss, love, ecstasy. I just felt like I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing, but like without having thoughts. It was just like it just felt ecstatic, and I was just repeating this pattern over and over and over. And I would have probably died happily there forever. And actually, my spirit guide had to fly in and pull me out. Because I'm not a person anymore. I don't have thoughts anymore. Like, okay, let's go back to your body. I became this, whatever this math problem was, I just became that pattern and I was one with it. It just was that.
Wow.
And that was
That's
such
so
an intense, that was an intense, like just the sensation.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, number one, my question is like, does that museum exist somewhere? And is that an actual whale statue with a math problem?
Looked far and wide. I was Googling and I can't find anything that exists that looks like this whale. I painted it the other day because I was like, I was like, man, I gotta get silver and I gotta make it now.
But yeah.
And I don't know, from my research, I was trying to figure out what it was. I couldn't find anything that looked similar. But I was thinking that maybe I went into a Fibonacci sequence pattern. Because when I was looking up more images of that and the way that the numbers kind of went, that when I was like kind of following the movements of that felt kind of like what it was. So I was like, I think I was a Fibonacci sequence for a second.
So
yeah,
when you say that feeling, is it, I don't mean to be rude or distasteful by saying this, but is it like a sex orgasmic feeling or is it
kind of,
something
yeah,
else?
it kind of was. And that's when I think I mentioned to my husband the Fibonacci sequence artists use and everything, and they use the word pleasure. They're like, it's pleasurable to the eye, right? Just the way, whatever it is, it does something to our brain where we experience pleasure. And that's what it felt like, but not in a sexual way, because as a pattern, there is no sexuality. You know what I mean? But it did feel pleasurable. Like, I guess you could say kind of in an orgasmic type way, but if like you're like, sex doesn't exist, this just is something that just is ongoing for eternity.
Yeah.
And there's nothing else kind of thing.
Yeah. Then the Fibonacci. Yeah, I wonder if you'll be able to find. It's almost like one day you'll just be checking something out and you'll be like, you'll just come across that whale statue in like a magazine or something like that. And you'll be like,
I know.
Oh.
Or I was like, some rich guy has it somewhere, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's why I wondered. I was like, I don't know if we can project into the future, but I was like, maybe it doesn't exist yet and it will,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe you're the one that creates it or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. When I first started trying to go more regularly, I had the most, I feel like, demonic encounters, a lot, actually. And that took a while to kind of, I almost feel like I had to almost mirror them to get them to go away. Like that worked finally, like the first time. I was just like, I had to set the intention of like, I had to morph into like a demon myself and
Oh,
just be like, I am you, so leave kind of thing. Which was kind of wild. Um,
do you think that happened more because it was the beginning of you astral projecting, so there was more fear
I
involved?
think so for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And I've also heard about somebody else. It's actually the Rick guy. He's the probably the number one projector out there that I've been following for the longest time. So he says that he would dress himself in a dark cloak, and so nobody can see his face when he goes into darker or lower dimensions. So then he's not bothered because I
Yeah.
guess they're seen as more powerful. So it kind
Mhm.
of reminds me of what you do, and it
Yeah. You
is.
kind of blend in. Yeah. Act like them, become like them to not be bothered because it is almost like, I feel like they are almost leeches, like just kind of,
Uh,
leech
attract.
onto people depending on,
Oh yeah.
I guess, if you have any fear or doubts, it's just like they're just on you. I've had one time where normally I'm pretty good. A lot of times, if like a negative entity's messing with me, typically will go back to my body and wait a little bit and then try to project going to a different place. But I have had this one time where, and I think it was because again, that fear frequency, I don't know, these parasites are attracted to it. I was projecting along some beach somewhere, and there was like some drone, and I was trying to mess with it, and it started shooting at me. So then I got fearful. Um, and then it was like I glitched into this other dimension trying to go back to my body. And oh, there was just demons, dark creatures. There was just this one, I'll never forget. It just felt like this huge black shadowy thing with these big red eyes, and it was probably like a 20-foot by 20-foot type being, and
Wow.
it said really ominously, it was like, your soul is mine. Like
Oh man.
literally. It was
Like
like,
from a video game or something like
yeah,
that.
just straight out of it. It's like, okay. And I'm trying to like zoom away from it, just like, you can't touch me, but it, like, after it said that your soul is mine, I couldn't. And I said to myself, I'm like, okay, like, let's glitch somewhere else, like go back to your body. And I couldn't. And
Oh,
that scared me. I was like, because normally I'll just go back to my body, and I couldn't. And I felt like I was being sucked to it, which was pretty wild. I was like, this is weird. Like I'm acting like I couldn't get away from it. So I, in that moment, was like screaming. I was like, I'm not yours. And I called on Jesus Christ.
oh,
I was
nice.
like,
Nice.
I am of Jesus Christ, you can't mess with me. And I had to like scream and shake. And it was interesting. Then I saw myself going back. When I entered my room, it was like slow-mo, watching myself, my body on the bed. I could see myself, and my mouth was moving because I was screaming. It took so much energy to scream in the astral projection that to get away, that in the physical, my mouth was, and I was mumbling. And then I watched myself, and then I went back into my body, and
Whoa.
that worked.
Yeah.
I've gotten into, which is there's this, which was interesting. There's this guy who's always in a black hood. Now that you mentioned, I'm like, is that
Oh,
Rick? Is that him? No, I was kidding. No,
yeah.
because this guy was bad news bears.
Uh,
Um, I've encountered some creepy dude on the astral plane that has this hood, and he was like stalking me on the astral plane for a long time. Actually, it was like really creeping me out. I'd be doing something, he would just come out of nowhere and be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, and I would just be like, "Go away! Like, why are you here? Like, get out of
I'm not
here!"
interested. Get out of
You
here.
know what I mean? And then he like kidnapped my astral body, locked me in this thing as like a test. And he was just like, well, let's see if you can get out of that, like playing games with me. And I was so pissed. I was like, bro. And I remember being like, it was just this weird, like cagey thing, but I took control, and I was like, okay, using all of my focus. And I was like, I can just project out of here. Like, you can't control me. And I did. I like went out of it, and then I started zooming around, and he caught up with me, and he grabbed me again. And then he put me in this other scenario. I was in this creepy warehouse thing with all of these little demon creatures coming for me, but he was talking. It was like he disappeared, but he was like a voice in my head. And he was just like, I bet you can't control it now. And I was like, God, this fucking guy.
You're like, this
Um,
game's dumb. I don't want to play
I
it
was,
anymore.
yeah, I was so annoyed. And so then I just like turned myself into like a giant spider and like chased them away. And then he was just like, interesting. And then took me, and next thing I know, I'm in this weird white room of nothingness. And there was so he was the one, he was wearing the black hood. And then all of a sudden, there was like four other people came in. We're in just a white room of nothingness. These other people came in that were in white hoods themselves. And I'm just at this point screaming at this guy. I'm like, get away from me. I don't know what you want from me. Leave me alone. And these people all surrounded me, and he was just smirking at me. And they grabbed my proverbial arm and like injected me with something. And then I just remember blacking out, like pointing at that guy. Um, and that was, and then that was that. And then I was back in my body. And actually, after that instance, I was not able to project for 2 months.
Oh,
I felt
wow.
like they put something on my energy body to stop me or something, because that
Yeah.
was wild. And I was pissed. I mean, I'm searching the internet. I'm like, how can you even do that? That doesn't even make sense. You know what I mean? I'm like, that doesn't make sense. You can't just
Yeah.
like, it didn't make sense. And I was like,
It just doesn't
why?
make sense, just
And I
straight up.
was so good at being able to go. I was like, this weird thing, and I can't go all of a sudden. Um, so that was pretty wild. I was like, yeah,
Oh,
crying that I was like never gonna astral project ever
oh, I
again.
bet. Oh man. And this was
Uh,
how long have you been astral projecting before that happened?
so
Like, when did that happen?
this was probably like a year and a half ago.
Okay,
So
so
this was
halfway.
halfway through where I'm at now, yeah, of
Wow.
being regular. But it was just a couple
So
months, luckily. And
yeah.
I haven't seen him.
And you good. I hope you never do. That sounds crazy. So you did you you kept practicing and trying to even for those months, and then
I did.
finally it just happened. You didn't do anything
Yeah.
different, but then just finally it
No,
just
I just was finally able to do it.
oh,
Yeah.
good for you. Good for you,
Yeah.
Ashley. Maybe you've advanced to a point where it's not even possible for him to like touch you and get to that point, like where
Yeah.
you're at now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
I hope so.
interesting though.
There was this weird one that I had with the angel when um I had landed on the kind of that cliff top. I didn't go into like any of the buildings this time, and there was only a few angels out there. And I this time for some reason, whoever the angel I was trying to interact with, they were ignoring me like I wasn't there. And I felt like I was just watching more so. And so I went up to this one angel, and they had this little sword thing. And I'm just trying to do that. I'm like, I have to remind myself, don't touch stuff.
Uh,
I like
oh,
touched the
like a sharp
sword.
thing? Like you should
I
have
don't
just touched.
know. That was a mistake. Uh it just immediately felt like it electrocuted me, but without pain, if that makes sense. It's just like a weird thing. It was just kind of like a warning, like, don't touch this kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I was so fascinated by that. I was like, what in the world? And then the angel kind of turned to me, and then it did acknowledge me, but it didn't say anything. It just kind of looked at me, and I was like, okay. And then I walked through this thing, and then there was these other two angels guarding some door, and I was trying to go into the door. They wouldn't let me in the door. They didn't want me to go in there.
Hmm.
Um, and I remember feeling this burning sensation on my thigh, like on my leg. And it was like, um, and I didn't know what was going on. And I'm just standing there. I couldn't get into the door, and they weren't saying anything to me, but I had this burning sensation in my leg. And I remember reaching my hand to my leg, and I was pulling. It was like there was a sword in my leg, a golden sword thing in my thigh. And
Huh.
I remember being like, what in the hell? And trying to pull on it. And that was weird to me because it did like feel painful. And I kept pulling it and pulling it. until I pulled it out. And then it was, and then everybody looked at me and like they were just like pissed. And I'm holding this sword that I pulled out of my leg. And then I was just kind of like, I got to get out of here. And then I flew away, and then I went back to my body. But I've always
Wow.
think about that. I'm like, there's a golden sword in my thigh, I guess, on
Yeah.
the astral plane. I was like, that's
Yeah.
pretty cool, I guess, but I don't know. It was just weird. It was like it knew, I don't know. I,
Yeah.
but it was weird how being there.
Did it show up in your thigh when you touched the sword? Like when
So
you
that's what I was
got
wondering. Like I touched
electrocuted
the
or?
one from the other one. Yeah, that's what I felt like. That somehow from me touching that, it was like I was implanted with one or something, like
Yeah.
on the astral, and I don't know. It was just a weird,
And then you
like,
take it out and you're making a commotion and everybody looks over at
yeah,
you like, come on. Like,
yeah,
what are you
like
doing?
who is this? Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, bye. So I've been to the moon twice, and that took a lot of intention and focus for a couple weeks. I was working on that. I was like, I want to go to the moon. I want to go to the moon. Well, when I finally did, um, the weird thing is the energy of the moon is not good for me. I don't know. I
Oh,
just did not get good vibes. I did not want to explore. I instantly was just like, nope, we got to get out of here. And it was weird because I
oh,
just kind of walked around, just not much at all. And I just felt this overwhelming like urgency of like, get out of there. Even though I
huh.
couldn't see anything, it was just all just like this like dusty white land, um,
Could you, were
rock.
you on the bright side or the dark side of the moon, or did you
I
not
guess
know? Or
I'm not sure, but I would
yeah.
assume maybe a bright side. I could
Could you,
see like
could you see Earth and stuff from
like
there?
rocks. I didn't look back, but I
Yeah.
could see like the black space, around me.
Yeah.
But I didn't stay long.
Yeah. The vibe, it
Um,
just wasn't
yeah,
feeling
just the
good.
vibe was really weird. I just did not want to linger there. Um, a cool place I've went before after, because a lot of times I have been to a 2D plane, which again,
Oh,
do not recommend.
why?
Um,
Why not?
well,
What's up with the 2D plane?
and a lot of times too, like I'll just kind of be flying through these, which my favorite is when I fly through some wormhole and it's like triangles with eyeballs in them, all just blinking as I'm just flying through it. And then I'll just like go through like one eye and end up somewhere else. So I'll like go through like a thing. So this time I was flying through like flashes of rainbow lights, of like a wormhole thing. And then I just kind of pivot through the side to like jump out of it. And then I was on this 2D plane. It was like, I don't even know how to explain it. If I
Is
had to compare it to anything, it was like Legos or something. Like everything was so, there was just more square and rectangle shapes kind of only, if that makes sense. So it was just, so maybe that was like a little different. I don't know if it was like 2D, maybe it was more than that, but it just felt like,
just super
I couldn't
simple?
move like in the wind, like normally how I can fly away, like around and like interact with places. It was very slow. It was like I was moving through molasses, and it
Oh,
was like I felt like a weird square, like a Lego piece or something. And it looked very much like different Lego blocks everywhere, but flat with no space around it. Um, is the only way I
oh,
know how to kind of explain like it was just like a place of just like these like square shapes kind of in different patterns. And it was very just suffocating and it felt very flat.
oh.
Like I was just like pressed, trying to kind of just move through it. And you couldn't do a whole lot there. There was like nothing going
Yeah.
on really, but those patterns of these like flat squares, um, which was pretty
So,
wild.
so what did you do? You were like, all right, I'm done with this
So
place. I'm just,
yeah, I was trying to explore, but it was like moving through molasses. So I stayed for a few minutes, kind of flying through it a little bit, and then I was like, no, and then I just kind of jumped out. Luckily,
the going through the tunnel, it's interesting because it reminds me of like a random number generator where like when you just shoot out, it's like just
yeah,
some random who knows where
Yeah.
you're going. It's just randomly
And that's how
generated.
it is most of the time for me. Most of the time I'm projecting, I'll just go through different wormholes and I just get shot out somewhere that I have no clue
Yeah.
um, where I'm going, unless I'm just flying. Sometimes I'll feel like I'm actively flying out of Earth into the and just into space, and then just flying through space sometimes, just like void of anything. Um, I do that a lot.
How's that? Is that peaceful being out
It
there in space?
is. It is actually. So I do like a lot of times I will just be kind of flying through space. One time it was interesting. I did find this place. I was just kind of flying through space and just, you know, stars, fireballs here and there. And there was this, it almost looked like a little floating island, but it's weird because in space too, when I can fly by planets and stuff, you know, and they feel like circular. This was this place floating in space and it was flat. And so I was like, what the hell is that? And I stop on there and it looked like this little resort, small little place. It was just a bunch of pools and like different types of like what looked like pools, and like it almost looked like a bar. And
Huh.
there was different beings there. So that was the first time, and it was the coolest place. I was like, what it kind of the tea hut little, I don't know, vacation is this? And it looked like it was a little stopping point for travelers in between places. And this is the first time I ever saw these type of creatures. There was these oh my god, they were huge compared to me to scale, probably like 100 feet tall by
Whoa.
30 feet wide or something.
Whoa.
And there was like all black. They almost looked like Gumby or something. Like they were just had these like block legs and just kind of this like round bald head, but they had eyes and a mouth, no nose that I saw. And they were just walking around. There was like four of them there and they were kind of together. And then there were some like human looking people there. And then there was a few of these like blue alien looking people. They were kind of humanoid looking though, but they were blue. And I was just exploring. It was kind of cool. And I remember
That
I
sounds amazing.
put my feet in one of the pools, and then somebody, I think it was one of the blue guys, but he was telepathically speaking to me. He was like, "You don't want to go in that." He was like, "That's not for humans." He was like, "That's for somebody from a different planet who's like more dense." He's like, "That would be like a pool for them." He goes, "That's the human pool over there." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." And after looking at where I just dipped my foot in, I was like, "Whoa!" It just seemed like Jello or something.
Oh.
And it was like, that's a pool for someone else. And so I was just kind of like, and I was trying to ask questions. And this, what I thought was cool. So I was like, what is this place? Talking to the blue guy. And he was just like, yeah, he was like, actually, a human created this place after they passed away as their favorite, like an afterlife project kind of thing. He said there was some guy that, which I was like, that's cool. So we can die. We can just like create places and to kind of I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Wow, that's
that's
amazing. That's
so I
so
thought that
cool.
was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So it was like a little resort area. It's not like a giant world that was flat. It was just like a floating
No.
island kind of a thing.
And it was cool because yeah, so like you're saying you're like sitting at a pool, you can see spaces like right here. Like space, you're in space is all around you.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like you're going in and now all of a sudden there's like clouds or like a background. It was like, no, we're just in space and the backdrop is space and like it's here, you know? But
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
there was just
Well,
these pools and I don't
I'm
know.
trying to get a visualization. It's because this is such a cool thing to try to visualize. Was there like was it like barren ground? Was it grass? Was it like all resorty and it just
So
was
it
nice?
felt more resorty, like it was
Yeah.
like a some type of tiled type floor
Yeah.
with
Just
like
really
no
nice.
plants, but just open, like almost like modern. So like you're just overlooking space, and it's just a bunch of different huge pools, and then there was like
And
bar
some
and like
bars.
different sitting areas
And there
of
are
different
aliens.
sizes,
There are
like
aliens sitting
huge,
on the bar stools, just
just hanging
sipping
out.
drinks and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, cocktail and like
That
the
reminds me
big
of
black guys and everything.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's even trippier to try to visualize because like you said, they're like 20 by 30 giant beings that are just
yeah.
chilling with everybody. So
And it
it's
was big
like
enough, and they had like different size, yeah, like bars and pools like to scale. So this place, it
Oh
was
yeah, yeah,
huge, but it felt small in a sense just because it was so modern and kind of sleek but long and big enough to accommodate, I guess, like different type of species. But it was just kind
yeah.
of like a little pit stop for,
It's
I
like
don't know.
it reminds me of Star Wars in the the bar on that one planet in Star Wars, the first one,
Yeah,
where they're all just like having a drink and all the
yeah,
aliens, all the different beings are like, like aliens are there having a drink. I don't know if you ever watched that. And then
yeah,
there's also a game I used to play a long time ago in like the 80s, and it was called Space Quest. And you were this
yeah,
guy named Roger Wilco, and you'd go around. It was one of those point click things where you try to solve something. Like, you come across the key at one point, just like walking around, and then you have to figure out where do I use that key. But like there
yeah,
was an intergalactic like bar where you would go.
yeah,
It wasn't a big resort or anything like that, but all the aliens are sitting down having a drink. So it's really,
yeah. It was
it's,
kind of like
yeah,
that.
that's so great.
And it was
I
cool.
love
And it,
that. I love
yeah.
that.
And the blue aliens were nice. They were talking to me. So
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
You're allies with the blue aliens.
I guess so. Like I said, I spent a lot of time projecting like around my neighborhood and stuff.
Yeah.
This was interesting. Recently, I went to, which it was funny because there was a woman I projected somewhere and it was this like conference building thing. I remember being like, ew, why am I here? And so I walk up to this conference building and normally, because it felt like I'm here on like a 3D plane, Earth somewhere. So normally I'm like a little ghost guy on the 3D plane. Nobody interacts with me or whatever. Well, as soon as I was getting near because I was gonna go, as soon as I was approaching the building to go inside of it and investigate, there was this person standing there, and they had like a red, like a not red, a green eye that like it like scanned me, and then at that point it was like they put like a green light laser scanner thing over me and they could like see me.
And this feels
They're
like you're
there.
on the third dimension
It felt like
or
I was here.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I was expecting, normally if I project to places nearby, I'll just go through the walls and just nobody can see me. So immediately I'm like, and then they were like, what are you doing here? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. I said, I'm projecting. I just showed up. I said, I don't even know where I am. And then the guy has like a speaker thing in his ear and he calls someone out. So then this woman comes out and she was like, okay, come with me. She's like, you're not the first one we've had. And I'm like, so she takes me inside and I said, where am I? And she says, you're at Neuralink. And I remember asking her again because I wanted to remember. I was like, what? I was like, Neuralink. I was like, okay. And she was just like, yeah. She was like, so we have a bunch of scientists and projects, and we're working on all these studies with the brain. And she said that they have some machine, she said, that has been attracting astral projectors recently, that I'm not the first one to come by, and that they
Wow.
can sense our energetic footprint or whatever. And she was so nice. And so she's taking me through, I'm like touring this facility. I'm looking around and I was like, okay, cool. And then she kind of was at that point, led me to the end of the door. I was like, okay, so like, bye bye. Um, and I went back to my body and I remember right away, and this was like in the middle of the night, and I just wrote down in my notes app, I wrote down Neuralink, and then I went to bed. Didn't think anything of it. So the next morning I was Googling Neuralink. This freaking Elon Musk owns a company named
Yeah,
Neuralink.
Neuralink.
I
Yeah.
didn't even never heard of that before. That they're working on like the brain implants or
Yeah.
something for people with and I was like, what? I was like, was I
Wow.
at his facility, I guess? And what the hell are they working on that's attracting astral projectors? Because I wasn't the first one.
Yeah. Oh
Uh,
my gosh, that's interesting.
so
So,
that was
Ashley,
weird.
I got to ask you. So, sorry, I'm slow on the uptake here. The person you interacted with was astral version of an astral being, or was that a physical being?
It felt like a physical being. So that's where
So,
I have my own questions on that. Yeah.
I'm wondering if Neuralink has gotten to a point where you can have that implanted and they can, even though you're a human in physical, you can actually, because of whatever techno, I have no idea. I'm just
Yeah.
speculating and guessing. You can, at that point, you can somehow, like Ashley shows up in astral form, then you can see Ashley and interact with Ashley. I don't know. That's super interesting, though. Super
Yeah.
interesting.
It definitely
I
had,
hope
yeah. I had a lot of questions about that. Just in general now, they have all that technology too, where listening to conversations and doing these things to where they're picking up on thoughts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We know that technology is out there. I don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing with it, but I do believe that they are, I don't know, government stuff starting to be able to pick up on projectors and let that energetic footprint. So I'm
Yeah.
curious for the future, what's going to happen with that.
Hey, I had an astral projector I interviewed, and she said that she saw her kids playing around in the astral, and she would like the kid was all goofing around because he was young, and like
Yeah.
you can't catch me, and then like teleporting all over,
Yeah.
trying just like having fun
Yeah.
like that. Have you had any experiences like that?
So oddly enough, not with my children, but with my niece. I've
Oh,
seen my niece on the astral plane, which is
uh,
interesting. And it was when, and she actually lives in our neighborhood too. And actually, it was when I was just flying around the neighborhood and I saw her. So then I, flew up to her and I was like so excited actually. I was like, oh my goodness, she's 5. I was like, you're on the astral plane. And, just trying to talk to her.
and she was coherent, and she wasn't a
Yeah.
zombie version, just like sleeping
No, she was conscious and
or
she was flying
conscious.
around. And we sat down on our rooftop in the neighborhood and we talked for a few minutes. And then I just told her to be safe and I gave her a hug. And then I zoomed away. And it was funny. I tried
That's
to like
awesome.
talk to her about it the next day.
I
And
was about to ask that.
she's so shy. She's this little shy little thing. But I was like, did you have any? And I just said like dreams because how would you explain this to a 5-year-old?
Yeah.
I was like, do you dream a lot? I was like, did you have any dreams last night? Did you see me? And she's just like, yeah, I dream. And she didn't really say anything. I was like, do you remember having a dream with me? And she just kind of smirked at me and she
Oh,
wouldn't say anything. So I kind of feel like I'm like, she knows. Like, I don't know.
oh
She,
yeah. If she gave you a smirk and
but
didn't say anything, I
she
would
was
think
like
she,
all like being shy.
yeah.
And I was like,
So,
okay,
so she,
Oh, actually, which this was a couple years ago. This was probably the 3 year. I did this a lot. Totally forgot about that. Actually, that was wild. So I swam with a pod of orcas.
whoa.
um, yeah, and it's actually pretty terrifying at first because it's always nighttime. The water's dark, and
Oh yeah.
their energy is intense and really scary. But they took me right in. They knew I was there. They were interacting with me. I feel like we were talking telepathically. And after that moment, I was like, oh, Orca's got to be one of my spirit guides now, clearly. Because I hung out with this pod. I just was swimming around with them all night long. And
Oh,
it was pretty wild. Just
it felt pretty like pretty freeing and stuff, like being with
so
them out there. Like, what it
it
feel like?
It honestly, it felt so realistic that it was kind of terrifying.
Oh,
But I felt safe with them. But I mean, I feel like I could feel the sensation of like the water on my skin. And at first I was like kind of on the surface, but like swimming near them before one I held onto, we were swimming under the water. And at first it
oh,
was like
that's
that
awesome.
when you're swimming underneath, you think that panic of like I'm drowning, I don't know how to swim, and you have to like remind yourself like you're in your astral body, like you're fine, you can do this. And I was like, okay. And then you get out of your head and I was like, oh, okay, I am. But I couldn't hardly, it was just so dark, the waters are dark. It was like my vision was still the same, I think, as it would be if I was like scuba diving or something. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I
Yeah,
couldn't really see much. That was what made it kind of feel uh
like exhilarating, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just really intense.
So,
um
were you holding on to the orca the whole time, or did you
I I was on different ones. Sometimes I would swim between them, but I was holding on to this one. Um, yeah.
in the
Yes. So
astral?
yeah,
Okay.
because like you said too, I think if you get scared too fast, a lot of times it will cause you to go back into your body. And that used to happen to me a lot before, to where I would constantly be going back to my body. Then I would be like, okay, let's fight, let's go back out. Cause I could still feel my body like vibrating and I'd go back out and back and forth. So finally I'd try to learn to like before I get to that point of fear to kind of catch myself and be like, no, you got this. Don't even like, I'll start to feel that sensation of fear and just to shut it down before it takes over. Because if the fear
Nice.
does come, then it's typically like you're back in your
It's
body.
over, right?
you
Yeah.
know.
So you're getting good at that. You're getting good at
I've been
catching it
better
and
at
being
that.
able
Yes,
to.
catching beforehand and just
That's
talking
awesome.
yourself, just reminding yourself of what you're doing. And that seems
Yeah,
to help.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I have been to Antarctica once, but I didn't go where I wanted to go. I wanted to try to go to where, people have set up stuff to explore. I was just in the middle of like ice and snow and nothing. And then that was that. And then I pretty much went back to my body. Um, I've recently been trying to go to Angel Falls. That's been my new project, just to test my skills of focusing on, okay, if I focus on Angel Falls, can I go there? I want to go there. No, the last time I fell asleep trying to think, and I remember when I started projecting, I'm telling myself, go to Angel Falls. And then, do you know where I went? I was so annoyed.
Where?
I I just like blipped in an instant and was attached to some floating satellite, like close to
Oh,
Earth, like some satellite thing. And that's where my husband said, he was like, I wonder if the name, like they have code name for that satellite and it's called Angel Falls or something.
oh,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Because
that's
it
a
was
great
so
question.
instant. And the minute I was leaving my body, I was like, go to Angel Falls, like you could do it. And then it was just like I was like slammed into this satellite and I grabbed it. And I'm like, what the heck is this? Um,
So then what'd you do? You just started drifting and flying around space and having a relaxing
Yeah,
time?
pretty much. After I
Something
was
like
like
that.
holding on to satellite for a little bit at first and kind of like looking around it, and I was like, this is stupid. And then I just, flew.
Have you tried to look up a satellite named Angel Falls or anything like that? Like
I
I like
did, but
so
I
you
couldn't see
couldn't
anything.
find one.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wonder though, that's a good question.
Yeah. I was trying to Google pictures of satellite to see what it looked like. It kind of looked like one of the International Space Station. It kind of looked like that, the Google image of that. So I was trying to look at that with my husband too. I'm like, what satellite did I go to? And I was like, oh, I think I went to the International Space Station. It's just floating there. So maybe it wasn't a satellite at all, but I don't know.
Yeah. Is that the only way people communicate or beings communicate in the astral is through telepathically, or does anybody say anything?
Most of the
Or
time, it's
speak?
funny to me because
I
it
don't
almost
know.
feels like people are speaking, like their mouths are moving, but it seems like I've been wondering that myself because I have had some instances where it feels like they're talking like normal,
Huh.
that I would understand. And then I have other instances where like no mouth is moving, but I can hear it in my head. So that would be like telepathy.
Hmm.
So I guess I've experienced both of those things.
Oh,
Um, but I've wondered myself, like it seems like they're just talking to me. I'm like, well, obviously it has to be a telepathic conversation. And what I'm like, are they just moving their mouth out of like, you know, I don't know. I wonder what I look like on the
yeah.
reverse end of that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because we're used to talking with our mouth. So even if we can do it telepathically, are we just like doing the motions? Just like when I land somewhere in an astral projection, a lot of times like I will be like walking sort of, even though I can
Oh,
fly.
yeah.
Like I'll zoom like a ghost. Sometimes I'm kind of hovering and I'll be like zooming around. Other times it feels like I'm walking. And I feel it's the same way with communication. Sometimes it feels more physical and other times it's definitely just like telepathic.
Teleporting, are you like, can you do that once you're projecting? Because you can fly really fast and stuff like that, but can you just blink somewhere?
So it feels like that sometimes. And I've realized that I do think that you're just moving so fast that it's like faster than the speed of light because it has had, but it never feels like I'm necessarily just blipping. I do feel like I always feel like you're just flying so fast, but it's like within
It's
an
like so
instant,
incredibly fast that
but I
it
still
feels that way.
feel like a sensation of like movement, not necessarily just like poof, but
Hmm.
that's just been my personal experience
Yeah.
so far.
So all the feelings and sensations, you can't taste anything, right? Is that correct? In the
Yeah, I
astral?
wouldn't say no, but you can like try to, but it doesn't translate the same. But yeah, I don't think I've tried to taste something now that I'm thinking about it.
You should leave a piece of cake or something on your island or
Yeah,
whatever in your house, and then astral project to it and see and mess around and
yeah,
experiment or something.
because I am able to experience like touch, like I could feel like the orcas, like their skin, and I could
Oh
feel them
yeah.
touching me. If I can feel um energetically with like other beings. I've had some intimate moments. So I can feel that.
I
So
I was gonna ask you about that, and we don't have to go there if you don't want to, no big deal. But like I've heard about that. Like if you
Mhm.
can touch and join with another being, and it's like an orgasmic experience, but it's not the same as sex
Yeah,
orgasmic here. Do
yeah.
you care to talk about how that is or anything like
I
that?
can do
Or
that a little bit, yeah. That is a wild experience. That yeah, it is weird because it is almost like because you feel like a little ghost guy and you can like tangibly feel the energy and it's almost like a body but like an energetic body like almost if you can like build that like fake ball in your hand and you can feel like the energy there if you try to make it.
yeah.
It's kind of feels like that, like you can feel that energetic movement on your astral body from another being. But again, it's more of like this like weird just like pressure. It's like the energy, which with pressure you can do anything that you could do with your physical body. That's where it's different. It's almost like um I used to joke with my girlfriend. I was like, it's like being fucked by the wind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this wind energy that just kind of moves into a pressurized form, but you can see other beings that have like form, like human form, but it's just like an energy body. And yeah, you
So
can.
is it are the pressure points the same? Like, could
Mhm.
that interaction be just like like the wind sensation on the arm or something, and it's feeling really good, or does it have to translate to the points that are important to us or triggering in the physical? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Kind of both, I guess.
okay,
So I
so I
think
understand.
just touch in general on the astral plane like that just feels really good. It reminds me of like almost if you're like on ecstasy or something, if like somebody touches your face, you're just like, yeah, it's kind of like that. Like there's just the sensation of your astral body. I'd like to just explain it just really windy, but with pressurized to where it can be, it's really orgasmic. In just a weird kind of way. Yeah.
At the same time, is there do you also get to know the being and you can know like their history and everything as well, or no?
Um, Not like history or like I know for a while, and this was like 3 years ago. Um, I was joking with my friend. I was like, I meet some guy every Thursday at a certain time on the astral plane, and I don't know. It was like, but it was the same energy. It was the same person or on the astral plane for a few months actually. Then we would regularly meet and have that encounter, and I don't even know how or where we were. I feel like it was on that 4D plane that was right above here. And I don't know how we coordinated that, how that happened, but it just would happen. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of like what I was doing before that hooded cloak guy found me. I was doing that kind of experimentation phase to where wherever I was, which felt again, it felt more of like a earth plane dimension, maybe the 4D or something. I would be like, okay, I want a mansion to show up right here that looks like this. And like, poof, there it was. And I would be like all excited. And I'm like, okay, now let's put, a table here with pink flowers. And then poof, pink flowers are there. I went through a phase where I was doing that a lot. And that's actually how that hooded cloak guy found me. He was like, oh, what are you doing? And it was when I was kind of manifesting these things to see what I could do on the plane as far as
Is that
that type
this?
of thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. Is that the remember that guy that created the space station, the bar,
Yeah.
whatever? Would that be the same like that mansion you created in the astral? Is that still there? Like that bar's there for him or no?
So I wonder that myself. I'm not sure. So I
Oh,
haven't tried to even go back to that point to see that. But I was talking about that with someone else recently, actually, that I wondered if that's the case. If
huh.
once you create something, does it stay? I don't know. I haven't tried to go back.
Yeah, I wonder. Lucid dreaming, when you would lucid dream a lot, that was basically the premise of it, right? Whatever you think about, you create
Oh,
and
pretty
as you're
much.
lucid
Yeah.
dreaming.
Yeah.
So that does translate to the astral as well. It just so then what would be because when you lucid dream, the feeling's more lucid, but when you astral project, it feels more real. Is that correct?
Yes. And different. I know I've tried to like explain the difference before. It was like, it feels like, so when you're lucid dreaming, the dream, like your perception of everything is just like, you know, how it is in Earth, kind of when you're astral projecting, it feels like you are seeing from your third eye. So everything is more like your vision isn't the same as it is now, where I feel like in a dream, your vision is like the same. So in the astral plane, I don't know how to explain it more. Just that you're seeing differently. It's like you have one huge eye that sees everything instead of two, if that makes sense. So it just
Yeah.
there's it's a such a nuanced thing. It's hard. It's really hard to explain. There's like a
Yeah.
so close. I know I've thought a
Well,
lot hard about trying to explain the difference,
yeah,
but
no,
besides just the
that
way
kind
that
of helps.
you see, but it is the also the feeling like you have more realistic sensations of almost like the physical body, which is funny because it's like not there anymore. Than even in a lucid dream, because in a
Oh, wow.
lucid dream, you can interact with people and it's you can feel, but it's not as like, holy shit, like on the astral, you know, it's just
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
vivid. Well, just in the sense I've been to like a place before too where it's like there's nothing if but you know it's you're not in space per se, but you're just nothing, but you can like have there's like thoughts involved, I guess. Like you can still like think, but there's nothing there.
Oh,
Um
what did you do? What were you doing there? Did you just had some thoughts and that was it?
it was pretty weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Nothing. There was like nothing, nowhere to go, nothing to even fly around. It was almost like felt like I couldn't move per se. Like you're just here and you're just, I don't know. I make art, follow my art on
Oh, yeah.
Instagram.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
At Ashley Lash Art.
Yeah. All right.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
what kind of art do you make?
I do like painting, acrylic paint. I do abstract stuff, florals, stuff like that.
Okay,
So
yeah, perfect. So I'll put that in the description for anybody that I'll put the link and everything if anyone wants to go check that out.
yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been really nice. Thanks a lot, Ashley. I
Yeah,
appreciate
you're
you.
welcome.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a great
You
night.
too.
All right.
Thanks.
Yep,
Bye.
thanks. Bye.